So today we're going to do interview questions. I typically ask when people come into our company or submit an application that being called for an interview. These are the type of questions that I ask. Okay, so it's good for you guys to know it. It may be repetition, but just if you can answer it, go ahead and answer it in your mind. But just make it a habit to at least do interview questions at least once or twice a week, even if it's just 10. That's how you get good. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. What is the difference between Tableau extensions TWB and TWBX? This is a question that we always ask. This is a question that if you've opened Tableau and you've done anything in Tableau, this is something that you are expected and required to know. Okay, so the TWBX is a Tableau package workbook, meaning it is the original .tw file grouped together with the data sources in one package. So whenever you work on Tableau and you save your work, especially when you're in the office for me, so we do file save as, and at the bottom it tells you, it automatically defaults to TWB. Okay, so you want to drop down, you know how it says, when you want to save Microsoft Word, you know that section that says save it as Word 93 to 97, Word XP, Notepad, whatever,
Yes.
word process. So that's the same thing with this. So when you save, you should try to make it a practice now. Like when you work on your Tableau, save as, and then just click down there and save it as TWBX. So what happens is whenever anyone views that data or views your workbook, they can download the workbook plus the data source, and they can make, if you want, that's if you want them to have access to a data source, and they can make additional changes to the workbook. But whereas the TWB, the TWBX file also can be considered analogous to specialized zip files, in which the zip file contains all the information necessary to work in Tableau. So basically, just like I stated, um, you can have someone can get access to it and have the data source and be able to make some changes, manipulate the data. Okay. And the good thing about it also is TWBX files you can perform without network or internet connections on your data, because your data is already present on your computer. So, say for example, I'm done working with a project at work, and the server is down at work, which happens every so often. Or for example, my internet is down. I can still do my work because I saved it as TWBX. My data is there. I can still go into my data sources. I can, do different things with it as if it is connected. So now let's talk about TWB. So with TWB, honestly, you can't really do any analysis because it only contains the Tableau instructions for interacting with the data source. They're like the XML files, basically just tailored to interact with data sources. So it's like an empty box,
Hmm.
and they are custom built to make an awesome visualization that Tableau generates. I don't think I have a picture, so I'm gonna skip to that. So it's just TWB. Like, we had a situation where someone uploaded TWB. So when I downloaded it, and every time I went to open it, it would tell me select a file to connect the TWB to. So for me to be able to do anything, I had to connect it to something. So I had to call the original creator of the TW of the workbook, and I asked them to resave it as a TWBX so I can have access to the data. So if you just have a TWB, you can't do anything but look at it and play with it, pretty much, but you can't do any analysis. All right. I hope that was clear enough for you. At least just think about it. As a box that is full and a box that's empty. The X is full, without X is empty. So it's one less. So just think about TWBX has an extra letter, so it has the data cells. TWB does not have that extra X. It's missing something, so it's missing the data. That's a way for you to remember it when you go in for an interview and they ask you such a question. So what
I,
is
I have a
dimension?
question.
Sure.
I just want to ask, like, when do we need to use the TWB? Like, in what situation that we should use TWB? I'm looking for its advantage.
Honestly, I don't really see much advantage, maybe except for maybe it runs fast when you click on like the filters or the parameters. But maybe you want to send like a snapshot to someone just so they can look at it and see what you've done. And you don't want to give them your data, then yes, you can. So I think initially when I did my project, it was just a TWB. So people could download the report, but they couldn't do anything with the data because there was no data. So all they could do was just look at it and click on this and click on that. So I had to go back and resave it as TWBX. So maybe for, I don't know, like I want to say for HIPAA purposes, but when you think about it, when you're at work, whoever sees your data is in your company is, I mean, has to be HIPAA compliant. I mean, it has to be HIPAA certified or go through HIPAA training. So anyone in your agency can see it or the owner of the data. So honestly, I don't really know a good reason for TWB. I'm sure there are. I don't use it, but I'm sure they are. So that's the only thing I could say.
Thank you. Makes sense.
You're welcome. What are dimensions and what are measures? All right. So this is the way I remember it. Okay. It's a field that can be considered an independent variable. They produce like headers when added to the rows or columns in the view by default. So they are qualitative. So when you talk about dimensions, you're talking about like maybe name, maybe address, things like that, that you cannot aggregate. I mean, you can count it, but you can't actually aggregate the actual what is what I'm looking for? The actual content of it. So any field with a text or date value. This means that a measure can be aggregated for each value of dimension. So just like I said, for example, you might calculate the sum of sales for every state, but you cannot calculate state. What do you want to calculate with state? How many letters they have? Or, I mean, you can't really do anything with state, but you can calculate the sum of sales with regards to state. State can stand alone. You can see Texas, you can see Massachusetts, Tennessee, you can see all those. But if you have just sum of sales in your report, it doesn't tell you anything. It just says sum of sales. Okay, sum of sales of what? Cars, sum of sales of books, sum of sales of what? But or sum of sales of where? But if you add the state in, which is a dimension, then you will see, you'll be able to understand sum of sales. Okay? So in this case, the state field is acting as a dimension because you want to aggregate the sales for each state. The value of sales are dependent on the state. So the state is an independent field and sales is a dependent field. So if you see TX, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, you know automatically that those are states. But if you just see a number, you don't know what it is. So the state helps you understand the number. Whereas measures, a measure is a field that is a dependent variable. For example, sum of cells. That is, it values a function of one or more dimensions. So I can say the sum of sales in Texas in the year 2022 in the month of April on the 30th day of April 2022. So sales is dependent on that information. I can put a date, I can put month, I can put date, I can put a full date, and you know that this is a date. But if I put sales, you're not able to know. I mean, you can't make sense of it. All you know is it's sales. You may not even know that it's sales because once you put it in the tooltip, it doesn't even give you a header. It just gives you a number. If you decide to make it a dollar amount and put a dollar on it, it still doesn't make sense. You just think, oh, is this the money that somebody owes? Is it the money that somebody has? Is it, you don't know what it is, but you know what state is. You know what date is. So okay. So for instance, you might create a calculated measure called sales rating that results in the word good. If sales are good and bad, otherwise, in this case, the sales rating field acts as a measure. Even though it produces a non-numeric result, it's considered a measure because it is a function. So you can make it, okay, if sales is greater than this, then good. If it's less than this, then bad. So do you guys understand the difference between dimension and measures?
Yeah, it's clear. I think it's understood.
That's good. Okay. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. What is KPI in Tableau?
I could try this one. KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator.
Good. Good. Whenever you start working, anyone else? Go ahead.
No, I was just trying to say KPIs help measure the performance or indicate the performance of a sales or any activity.
Exactly. Very good. Yes, that's what KPI is. So when you decide to work, anywhere you work, you cannot avoid KPIs, key performance indicators. You want to know how much money, like how much profit. You want to know in the year 2022, what's your overall profit? In the year 2022, what's your overall loss? In the year 2022, what was your maximum discount? So usually KPIs are they're like major numbers that you see. The first thing you pretty much see when you open your dashboard, like maybe you see like 2M, 5M, 3%, 4.5%. All the other things like the pie charts, bar charts, line charts, all those things are like assistant to KPIs. So they help them understand. Like it's kind of like a slicer for the KPI. We can easily create a view that shows it's not key progress indicators, but it's key performance indicators. I guess some people call it progress, but for throughout my whole career, we call it key performance indicators. You create something, you build it, and it shows you, okay, this is the key performance indicator. It lets your business know, okay, in year 2022, we made 10 million profit. But in 2021 or 2023, in the first quarter, comparing the first quarters, we made, instead of 10 million in 2023, we made 6 million. What are we doing wrong? where are we getting our losses? That's where those graphs and those pie charts and those slices come in, like the filters, the year, the month, seasons, whatever. So that's how it helps the business to know what needs to be done. Okay. Let me see. Preparing data for Tableau. I think this may be a little bit complex. Let me look. Yeah, we can do it because these are also questions that could potentially be asked. So, sorry guys. I probably should just go one onto. Okay. Let's talk about preparing data for Tableau. Okay. So, there are different ways that you can prepare data for Tableau. Have you guys heard of Tableau Prep? Have you played with Tableau Prep? If you haven't, honestly, I recommend to add that to what you need to learn because a lot of people are now looking for people who know Tableau Prep. Because in Tableau Prep, you can clean up your data. For example, like if you have INC and then you have include, it'll send a message and say, hey, this and this means the same thing. Should I merge them? And you say yes, and it goes in through all your data and it merges everything. And then when you look through your data, you can actually create calculations in Tableau Prep that automatically flows into your Tableau dashboard or workbook, whatever you want to do. What else does it do? It has so many features. Like, for example, we had a situation where we were trying to have zeros in certain columns whenever it's empty. We don't just want that column to disappear for say January through December. So right now we're in September. So we wanted October to have 0, November to have 0, December to have 0. Besides having to calculate 12 different calculations, if you go in Tableau Prep, there is a way that you can do it where you can say if it's not the current month or if it's not, put a 0. And it automatically brings that into your worksheet, into your dashboard. So there's so many features in Tableau Prep. Now, we have other things as well. See, clean up dimensions and measure names, which is the INC include. You can set attribute aliases. I have never done that, so I'm not really sure what they mean. I mean, you can give your measure names aliases if you right click on dimension. If you right click on a dimension, you would see alias. You can rename them. We do that a lot. We do that a lot because we have to do some demos and we use companies' data, but we have to mask it for PHI and for HIPAA compliance. So we would, instead of having like Eric Kayato or Mike or Million or T-Baby, in there we would have like client 1, client 2, client 3, client 4 in the alias. So that's one thing you guys should also look into, try to do that, just to know how to do that. So
I
yeah.
watch a video on YouTube, and the presenter was talking about the Tableau Prep and say you come with the package with I think the Tableau desk. I think those are the new future or something like that. I don't quite
Yes.
remember.
Yes. So at my company, it comes with I think it comes with the server and then it comes with desktop. So Tableau server or Tableau online,
Yeah.
when you have those, you have Tableau Prep that you can download and you have Tableau online. But you can download it and play with it for like 14 days. Just get as much as you can within that 14 days. And then when there's another update, you can just refresh it. But I have actually used it once before. But there was this particular job that I qualified for because I was looking for a second job. And they asked me if I was familiar with Tableau Prep. That was my last question. And I said, I have used it once, but I am not too familiar with it. Guess what? I didn't get that second job. So it's just honestly, when I come here to teach you guys or give you questions, these are from like personal experiences. Because I want you to be successful, I want you to succeed. So, and then you can set default colors, you can set default measure aggregations, you can create calculated fields. We know basically this is just Tableau. So, and then let's talk about the criteria to blend the data from multiple data sources.
Excuse
Personally,
me, Aminat, can you go back to the last
sure,
slide?
sure. And also, you can prep your data in MySQL. You can prep your data in SQL. You can prep your data in, I think, Oracle. You can prep it in. So I got a second job as a Tableau, like an analyst. No, consultant, excuse me. So they use BigQuery. I would also say just read up on it because lately the interviews I've gotten, they ask about BigQuery. It's just a Google Cloud platform that holds huge data. Tableau cannot hold that much data. SQL cannot hold that much data, but Big Cloud does hold that much data. So that's why people use Big Cloud. So they connect the Big Cloud to Tableau, or they connect it to like MySQL. There are different ways that they connect it. So you can use those and just go into like, if you have a student ID or you can download the updated version of Tableau, I would tell you to go look at the data sources. Have the data sources, it's the same way you connect to Excel is the same way you'll connect to the data sources. So you can just have those data sources in mind. Like if they ask you, so what data sources have you connected to? I've connected to SQL. I've connected to Excel. I've connected to CSV file. I've connected to TXT file. So you can confidently say those things. So, okay. And so let's go on to the next one. So the criteria for blending the data from multiple data sources. Personally, I hate data blending. It is the most difficult thing well, not difficult, but it is annoying. I guess that's the word. Because you have to look to find out. Like there should be a common dimension to blend the data source into single worksheet. So, for example, when blending actual and targeted sales data, the two data sources may have a date field in common. So, for you to do the data blend, because you need data from one to the other without you writing a SQL query to do a join, or if you just don't feel like doing a relationship or a join, you want to do a blend. It's not effective, not the best, but sometimes you have no choice. For example, today I had no choice. I had to use it. So you would look at data source one, and then you would look at data source two. You would look to see which fields they have in common. They can have 5 fields. Honestly, you have to play around to see which of the 5 fields will give you the data you need. So you have to connect data field 1 to field 1 in the other data source, field 2 to field 2, and then test it to see if you get your data. If it doesn't work, then connect field 3 to field 3. Test it. If it doesn't work, you go to 4. If it doesn't work, you go to 5. If that doesn't work, then you connect field 1 and field 2. You can connect as many data, as many fields together to get your data, which is why I say it is annoying because there's no specific way to do it. So So when you switch to the secondary data source in the data window, Tableau automatically links links the field that have the same name. So you would see like a red ribbon on the side. I believe I have showed you guys. If they don't have the same name, you can still define a custom relationship. So you can go in once you edit blend relationship, you can actually click on custom and manually select your own blend. A lot of times you have to do that. So sometimes what I have to do, I actually go to my field in Tableau, I right click and rename it so that it can find it. So it's just, if I have a choice, I'd rather, as much as I hate writing SQL, I'd rather write a SQL query than to do a blend.
What is the main disadvantage of using blending instead of join?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't
Okay.
have an advantage I haven't seen an advantage, except that it's annoying.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I don't want to say it's difficult, but it's sometimes I have to get someone to help me with the data blend. So
So on the interview, did they ask you technically to blend the data or just ask you a question?
honestly, I don't think they will ask you, but what they will ask you is what is the difference between data blend, join, and relationship.
Wow.
So they will not ask, I highly doubt, because if you Google data blend, they tell you it's the most ineffective way to combine your data. If you read, it will tell you it's the most ineffective way. But if you have to blend, for example, if they have a date field in common, you can blend on the date field. If they have like medical record number, if field 1 has medical record number and field 2 has medical record number, you can blend on medical record number. Just whatever you're blending on has to be in source 1 and source 2. You cannot blend date with medical record number. It's not gonna work. You're just gonna see stars in your report because they're not the same data type. They're not the same thing.
But that's the same thing like joint, no?
Yes, it's the same thing like join. So you might as well just do join. It's the same thing as relationship. But the only thing is relationship automatically does the joining for you. With data blending is from 2 different data sources. When you do your join, you're doing it in one data source. When you do your relationship, you're doing it in different data sources. So you need to kind of know, yes, they all have the same way of doing things, but they're for different instances. One is the same data source, one is 2 different data sources, one is 2 different data sources automatically. So the relationship is like the AI of Tableau. It automatically gets you things, okay, blend on this, blend on that. Join, you have to join two tables in the same database. Then for data blending, it's different data sources, multiple data sources. So you can have 5 data sources that you want to blend inside Tableau. Unless if you want to bring in a custom SQL, then you have to write a custom SQL outside of Tableau and do your inner joins, your left joins, your right joins, and then bring it in as a custom query. But that is just, when it comes into Tableau, that's just one. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. You're just copying your query and you're pasting it into a custom query field. And that becomes, it's just one field that you see. You don't see multiple lines, squiggly connections. So you can do your joins with different data sources outside of Tableau. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
All right.
So I have one last question.
Sure.
So would it be better to learn more about Tableau than the Tableau Pre?
Oh, yes, you have to know Tableau. You're not going to know everything. I don't know everything, but yes, it's better for you to learn Tableau. Once
Okay.
you learn Tableau and you're comfortable, I would say learn Tableau Prep. It's to your advantage. Because when they ask you a question in Tableau Prep, if they ask you, have you used it? You say, yes, I've used it to clean up data. I've used it to, whatever you do with it. It's a plus for you. It's not a negative. So
That's right. Okay. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Can we use groups and sets in calculated fields? So no, we cannot use groups in calculated field, and yes, we can use sets. We can actually use, let me see, what did I see today? I think you can use, I think you can also use set as a filter. Like you can drag it into the filter. No, you can put it in a calculation to make it a filter and say if this is in set A, then this. If it's in set B, then this. But you can't use groups. Okay, so what's the difference between groups and sets? Groups combine dimension members into higher level categories. Set creates a custom field based on existing dimensions that can be used to encode the view with multiple dimension members across varying dimensions. So for me, I don't believe, do I use groups? Yes, I use groups. If I want to group members, they're doing similar things, but you could just use one in a calculated field. So let me see, what example can I give? By grouping, so we had diagnosis codes and diagnosis descriptions. So we had to group the diagnosis code and descriptions into, well, someone had to do that, and I just had to review their work. So what he did was he grouped them into like maybe cancer, anemia, diabetes, just different sections because they had different CPD codes and different diagnoses. So, but we looked at the code to determine the grouping for the diagnosis description. So that's how we've used SET. We don't really use it that much. So let's see what else. Okay, let's talk about dual axis. We should all be, if you haven't used dual axis, they are the best thing that happened. One of the good things I love in Tableau. With dual axis, you can have a bar chart and a line graph. You can join them together. And you have a bar graph with line on it. You can have a bar graph with text and join them, and you have a bar graph that has text on it. You can do so many things. You can have a pie chart with another pie chart and make it into a donut chart. So it allows you to be able to compare. So and this is something that Ali likes to do. He likes you to have like multiple comparisons, like year over year with the total number. For mine, it was total number of death with year over year percentage, and percentage of deaths without body cam on by the police. So you can compare, you can literally see it on the graph. You can see everything on the graph. You can see up to as many measures as you want to see on that graph. You can compare it. But then you have to drag measure name for one of them, and then a field for the other one to do a dual axis with multiple measures. So that's just a tip for you guys once you're doing your personal project. Drag measure name into rows or column, and edit filter, select whatever fields that you need to see, whatever 2 or 3 fields you need to see. Then add a measure value into text to show it, and you can change that to line and whatever you want. Then on the column of the row, you will add an additional field. So you can have that additional field be the bar graph and all the other ones line graph, or however way you want to do it. So that's just a tip. Dual axis, why do we use dual axis? To compare multiple measures using dual axis, which are 2 independent axes that are layered on top of each other. Think about that layer, think about donut chart. That's how you can get a donut chart, by doing a dual axis. Dual axes are useful when you have 2 measures that have different sales. For example, I don't have a picture, sorry guys. So, questions? How do you improve performance? This is a question that has been asked on every interview that I have participated in. How do you improve performance? You need to know that, okay? I have some ways. I don't think I have everything. So we know to use extract. So first thing is to use extract. Because you can always create a refresh time to refresh at certain times of the day. But if you use live, just think about it. Every time you click on something, it goes in and it says, oh, okay, let me go and get the most recent data. Then it slows it down. Then it goes and gets the most recent data. And then if you click on something else, it'll say, oh, let me go and go again. And it reads the whole data and scans it and gets you the most recent data. If you drag a field, it'll say, oh, Mike is dragging a field. Let me make sure it's the most recent field. So it goes back into the database, your data, wherever your data is, looks, and brings you the most recent data. Whereas you can just have an extract and just drag it, and it would drag, and you can have it refresh at night when no one is using the server, which is what we do. We always work with extracts. And we can always refresh it. If I'm on my desktop and I want to see the most recent data, I can just click refresh all data and it refreshes it for me as of the time I refresh it. So I have the most recent data as of the specific time. So, and then it says limit your dashboard to fully answering only one scenario. Now, I will be honest with you, it says, yeah, limited to only answer one scenario, but once you're at the office, you're going to be answering multiple scenarios. You may have to put like a dashboard for sales, a dashboard for discounts, a dashboard for geographical location of sales, of different things. We have, ideally, they say maybe have 3 sheets, or is it 3 or 4 sheets? Or maybe maximum 5 per dashboard to make it efficient. That's true, but when you're at work, you're gonna need more than 1 sheet, more than 5 sheets. We've had up to maybe 50 sheets on one dashboard. And is the performance good? Not that much. So at its simplest, a dashboard should be able to fully explore a single scenario. If your dashboard has 6 sheets, 5 actions, and 3 quick filters, you might not be looking at only one scenario, okay? And it says, remember, no matter how elegant and comprehensive your solution is, if it doesn't run quickly as the user would like it to, he or she will not use it. So yes, we have I think one dashboard we probably have like maybe 25 sheets or so. We realize that people don't really use it because, when you click on it, you want it to come up in like maybe 3 seconds. But ours is taking 20 seconds for every dashboard that you click on. It's taking 30 seconds or 25 seconds. Every filter you click on or every number you click on for drill down or drill through, it's taking 30 seconds. Guess what? You can spend up to an hour just looking at one dashboard. Personally, I wouldn't even bother looking at that dashboard. Limit the data being introduced to each worksheet. If you are not planning on using a set of rows, you should filter them out of the data set as early as possible. If your table contains all sales and you only want to look at US sales, create a custom SQL query that filters it out. Or you can go, like when you're connecting your data, you can go to, on the right hand side, you would see edit or filter something. You can click on that and just filter it over there. It's better to do it at a data source level, so that way the data coming in, it's gonna stop it right before it gets into Tableau. And it's only going to allow whatever it is that you need to come in. So I typically use that. So I put a filter in the data source, in the extract filter. I believe, yes, the extract filter. That's the, I believe that's the best way to do it before you go into, or is it data source? I always have it backwards, but the one on the left. Then when you do that, if the filter is worksheet dependent, try using a context filter. So basically what the context filter does is after you've done your, I think extract filter, extract filter. If you have a data source filter, then it'll look at that. Then it'll come to your context and will be like, okay, before anything else runs, we have to run the context filter. Then we can run the other filters after that. And also, there is when you're using server, Tableau online, I'm not sure about Tableau, desktop that's connected to a server. You would have a button in the data source when you're adding your data, attaching your data. At the data extract level, you can click edit and hide all unused fields. You see that? Hide all unused fields. That helps too. That helps a lot. So you want to do that as well. You guys may not understand what the hide all unused fields is, but I would just say you go on YouTube. Like these topics, you don't have to write down the questions, but just write down like performance tuning, write down dimension measures. Go on YouTube and watch it. That's what I did for my interviews. So remove components that add no value. So the other day at my new job, I was working on a report and I noticed that it had this aesthetic which I have used before, which is animation. Somewhere in Tableau you can actually animate your Tableau. So it has animation on it. So whenever I clicked something, it would just snail into what I wanted to do. And it kept doing that and slowing me down. And I got annoyed and I just turned it off. So that will slow down your report. It may look pretty when the lines are coming in, you're seeing them like come in slowly, but it's not, it's of no use. So that's what they call remove components that add no value. While aesthetics are very important to building a usable dashboard, unimportant objects aren't worth losing efficiency over. In fact, you'll be better off adding more functionality than you would adding pure aesthetic objects. So that's an example of something I wouldn't even want to put in my report because it slows it down. So let's see. Eliminate any non-essential components from the visualization. This refers to values that would appear on page filters, level of detail shelves, if they are purely there for the user to see if they scroll over a point. I don't know what that means, but they don't have additional values. Look, when you're creating your report, make it look good and make it run fast. Don't add too many colors. Limit your colors. Too many colors turns people off. Myself especially, if I get a dashboard and there are too many colors, that's the first thing I'm going to complain about. I had somebody who I was asked to review his dashboard, and he had just on the top 7 different colors. He had white, he had black, he had blue, he had light purple, dark purple, gray, light gray, dark gray, white. It was just too much. And then he had different font styles. And I was like, no, we're not going to do this. I stripped the report of all the colors and just left gray and white, because when you're creating dashboards, you want to put into consideration that people are colorblind. So you don't want to use bright colors like red, pink, yellow, because they're not going to see that. So you want to use soft colors like blue, light blue, medium blue, not the bright blue. You want to use like gray, light gray, dark gray. You want to use just, I want to say earth tones, but you can add a little light green to it. Just honestly, if you've never done UI, UX, just Google how to color blend. There's something out there that tells you what colors to use on your dashboard. And let me tell you, that catches a lot of people's attention. Why do we use hierarchical fields in Tableau? It helps you to drill down data. It's a quickest way to do a drill down, honestly. You can just put the city onto state and then drag that in, and you can just click the plus and you can see the state and see the cities right beside it. So that's pretty much the benefits. And we can do one last question. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take it. Explain longitude and latitude. Those are basically what you need for geographical details for like maps and just maps. But I will tell you, you can use longitude and latitude for, I think, for donut charts and radial charts. Yes, you can use them for donut charts and radial charts, I believe. Yep. So that is it. Do you guys have any questions?
I do have a quick question for the performance part. Like if we have a filter and or a lot of stuff on our dashboard, and if it takes time, what do you do?
If you have a filter that makes your dashboard run slow.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, what you will do is you will go and do a performance tuning. It may not be the filter. It may be something else. Okay. And also, typically, I would recommend using, I think they say use parameters instead of filters, but I would use filters instead of a parameter. So what I will do first is to run a performance tuning to see exactly what is slowing it down. A lot of time filters are just clicks. I don't think they slow them down unless you have too many of them. If you have too many of them, you can merge them into a parameter. Say, for example, you have a filter that filters a branch and year, and you want to put a branch parameter and you want to put a year parameter. Instead of you having multiple filters in the filter field, You can create a calculated field to say something like if branch, which is the branch field, equals to the parameter, or the branch parameter equals all, and you can put year equals, year field equals year parameter. And then you can put that one filter in the filter field to help your parameter work. So you can do that instead of having like a whole bunch of filters in there. Now, if that doesn't work with regards to your filter, you can go in and see, do you have fields that you're not using? You need to literally go and hide all those fields. Those are the number one thing that I see that slows down the report. So you want to hide all unused fields. Then you want to make sure that you don't have too many sheets on a dashboard. And you don't have too many, just have enough filter. You don't have to have filters for everything. Just have enough filters. Like, honestly, don't go beyond 6 filters. Or yeah, maybe 2 parameters and 4 filters. If you're having 7 or more than 6, then that's an overkill. You don't need that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right. If no other questions, I will release you guys. You guys have a wonderful rest of the week, and a wonderful weekend, and keep working hard.